Now, this is The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program. I'm Eben Mabuna, and we're coming to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. It's a good evening to you. Now, this week marked the commencement of the 2026 school calendar in Zimbabwe. This season is associated with the hustle and bustle of acquiring grade 1 and Form 1 places, and this also encompasses issues of school fees, uniforms, and stationery, among other issues. However, as always, these activities are not free from controversy and complaints from parents. Some schools are also accused of hiking school fees, demanding school fees exclusively in US dollars, and some are forcing parents to buy uniforms and stationery exclusively from their schools. Another topical issue this term is the government's rollout of the heritage based curriculum. And on the chase today, we ask, did schools open smoothly this term? What are the issues surrounding the opening of schools this very term? And what are the expectations from the new curriculum? Well, for these and other issues, look no further than today's episode of The Chase here on ZTN Prime. Our subject tonight is Back to School 2026. Are teachers and learners ready? And of course, in the studio, I'm joined by Goodwill Taderera, Secretary General, Zimbabwe Teachers Association, ZIMTA, Charles Mbwandarika, Harare Province Chairperson, Progressive Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, Dr. Charles Tleza, Education Expert, and joining us on the phone, Mr. Taonga Nandoro, spokesperson, Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. Gentlemen, hello and welcome to The Chase.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, viewers.
Fantastic. Now, to you, our viewers, please note that the views expressed on The Chase do not reflect the views of Zim Papers Limited or those of ZTN Prime, but are a reflection of the opinions of our guests here appearing on our program tonight. Now, to get the ball rolling, I'll start with you, Misty Ndoro. You are out there making way from Chiredze on your way to Bulawayo. May you speak to us about the state of affairs as schools commenced, of course, business this very week.
Thank you very much. We are on a tour of monitoring schools' preparedness for the academic year for 2026, on tour with the Honorable Minister, Professor Torerai Moyo. We started with Manicaland, where we are in Buera, and then we went to Mutare, where the Honorable Minister also had a meeting with the heads of schools from the whole of the province. Then we went to Chiredzi, where the Honorable Minister also taught some schools such as Mwenje Primary School, Chiredzi Government High School, and also Chiredzi Government Primary School. We are now on our way to Matebeleland South so that the assessment can continue. The assessment so far from the position of the Honorable Minister, Professor Torerai Moyo's position, is that the state of preparedness is extremely very high. He has been impressed by the way that the school heads have prepared for the smooth opening of the schools, including also issues to do with teachers' preparedness in terms of getting ready for work by having their schemes up to date. He actually checked on a number of schemes from Buera to Mpare and Chiredzi, and he was pleased with the level of competencies that our teachers are exhibiting. So we are very happy so far. It is 3 days after schools have opened, and it seems that even the enrollments of children on the first day, they were hovering around 60-70% in terms of attendance. But on the second day, the percentages were rising to 80-90%. And today, most of the schools recorded full houses. So we're impressed with the way that schools have opened this academic year, 2026.
Right. Taking the Conversation back here to the studio. Of course, you represent the interests of teachers, Goodwill as well as Charles. From your perspective, would you say that the opening of schools in this particular term has been a smooth sailing?
Indeed, we can safely say that. It has always been the case that on the first day, the attendance, particularly by learners, is not 100%. And as the numbers improve as we get to the second, third, and up until we get to the end of the week. And so even our teachers, it is only normal because they also are parents and they have to take their learners to schools, and you have your grade ones starting, they take them there. You have your form ones also starting, they also take them there. But in most cases, they are on official absenteeism. They will have communicated with their school authorities. But come second day onwards, everything went on very well and quite smoothly. And actually, our preparations start even the previous Friday before schools open, because naturally the ministry has a policy that we have our opening staff meetings every Friday before schools open. And I can confirm that everything went on very well in that dimension.
Right. Would you echo the same sentiments?
Thank you. I will concur with my colleague here. Schools opened doors on the opening day smoothly, with no hiccups. Like he has rightly alluded to, it is the learners who sometimes are not there for the full number, or you may not get the full complement on the opening day for various reasons. Some would have traveled, and some would have failed to secure transport. But as the week progresses, you see that the numbers improve. And as of preparedness, I will gladly say, as teachers, we are always ready, that the ministry does not have to worry about teacher preparedness, despite the fact that morale is very low due to the remuneration, which is not to our satisfaction. But we continue to provide a full and good service. I can safely say that.
Right, a good and fair service, you put it out in that particular manner. Dr. Sleza, there's so many pieces here. You've got the learner's aspect, the parents' aspect, the teacher's aspect, all these pieces of the jigsaw puzzle coming together to give us a picture that is impressive as schools commence.
Well, as schools are commencing, we are noting that generally Zimbabweans value education very highly, and from the parent side and the student side and the teacher side, despite some challenges that may come, they rise above the challenges, and they are quite resilient, and schools are opening. And of course, there are some challenges here and there, but the parents are able to scale through, as well as the students. Of course, when it comes to starting off the first day and the second day, there can be a bit of less numbers as far as the coming in of students, depending on where they're coming from and other factors. But as far as educators are concerned, they are ready. Parents, whether they are not as fully ready, they find means and ways such that students go to school. So as we are starting, all the pieces of the jig puzzle are actually coming together, and school is rolled out quite well.
Right. I will relay the next question to the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education to say, at this particular point, we are seeing the complete rollout of the heritage-based education. Now, the question is this. Have the necessary steps been taken right up to this point to ensure that that rollout is successful, as well as ensuring that the teachers are up to speed and fully equipped to take it hands on?
Yes, thank you very much for that important question. You will notice that we have now managed to assimilate ourselves to the heritage-based curriculum, including also the expectations of the heritage-based curriculum. This is why now it's all systems go, and we cannot say that there's any teacher or any head of school or any school rather that does not know how to implement the heritage-based curriculum. We also cannot say there are no learners who do not understand what they're trying to do with
Right, it seems we have a communication challenge right there. Of course, we continue to make efforts to reach out to him just to get a picture of where things are as the term is commencing. Now, I will relay this question to the teachers to say, from the teacher's point of view, it looks like we have Mr. Taungana Ndoro back on the line. Mr. Taungana? All right. It looks like our technical team is still trying to reach out to him. Do you echo the same sentiment that enough preparations have been made to ensure that this heritage-based curriculum is, of course, on point and up to speed from a teacher's perspective?
Let me begin by saying yes, to some extent, the readiness is there. There is a massive rollout of new textbooks and other teaching and learning materials, and schools right now are busy trying to procure those. A lot of publishers have now come in with a lot of material to complement the heritage-based curriculum, and teachers have been trained. I think the last quarter of last year, in all provinces, we understand there were workshops to capacitate teachers in as far as the knowledge and the skills that are needed. So the only thing that we may find lacking at the moment is that as parents pay, school heads and other school authorities, they are busy ensuring that they procure the needed materials. And as coming from a teachers' organization, our expectation was it would be okay if government would also chip in with some form of grants to assist those communities where parents do not have adequate resources to ensure that their schools have the resources that are required. Because this heritage-based curriculum, there is a lot that is needed. We have come into a time where things like internet connectivity is no longer a luxury. It's something that is needed. It's now a necessity because both learners and teachers need to ensure that they do the necessary research, they find the information that is needed, and also access some of the learning materials can be accessed from the internet. So this is one challenge that we are seeing. Then going forward, this is the first year, 2026, that we are going to have heritage-based examinations. And we are appealing to ZEMSEC that they should come in with the specimen papers so that we prepare learners adequately. We would not want a situation that when the exams comes, learners and teachers are
misaligned.
Yes, we want things to be done so that we have preparations, and also morale has to be high if this implementation is going to be wholesome like we want it to be. So we are expecting the Ministry of Finance, whilst the Education Ministry is focusing on the implementation, the Finance Ministry should see that teachers are remunerated in such a way that they give it their all. We have always done our best. Now with a little motivation, we will get to a point where we become a glory of this continent once again.
Right. Speaking on the subject of teachers, has there been adequate training to ensure that the teachers fully understand what is expected of them under this new form of curriculum?
Thank you very much. We strongly believe that the training is a continuous process. You recall that first of all, we had what was called the new curriculum. We went on, it metamorphosized to become an updated curriculum until we got to the heritage-based curriculum. And I want to assure you that the teachers can do anything. Remember, they go through college. And at college, they are taught what we call syllabus interpretation. So what is only required is teacher capacitation, which is continuous. And at this level, as opposed to the previous one, where we had the 30 colors, if you recall. Now we have around 6 subjects at primary level. And also at secondary, they've also been reduced to manageable levels. So the teachers are more than ready. What I can only reiterate that my colleague has said is the aspect of motivation. I'm happy that Comrade Taunganandore said they were moving around and they were impressed with the way the teachers were prepared and ready, including the documents, documentary evidence of schemes of work. So give them money, they can do anything. So the teachers are more than ready and prepared to assist the learners. What I may also want to highlight is the issue of tools of trade. If you just then say scheme of work and you don't have adequate tools of work, talk about chalk, talk about internet connectivity, talk about gadgets, this is the way to go these days. So there has to be power, there has to be gadgets, there has to be connectivity, and then put the teacher there and the learner. It's all systems go. So I strongly believe that if parents are going to support the education system, if the ministry is going to support the education system, including the Ministry of Finance, education financing is very key and paramount. I will give you typical examples. Parents in rural areas, high-density areas nowadays actually strongly believe that because the ministry has pronounced that learners will not be chased even if they don't pay, they are using that not to pay. And as a result, that affects the performance of teachers at school. That affects the tools of trade that are supposed to be bought at school. Talk about chalk, manila, talk about paying even the ancillary staff that are there to clean the toilets, because you want also the learners to be under a healthy environment. So these are some of the issues that we think education financing must be taken seriously, including the remuneration framework.
Right, we will get into the teensy-weенsies of the remuneration framework. But to you, Dr. Hleza, the teacher spoke about the state of preparedness from their end. But to flip it over to the other side of the coin, may you speak from the perspective of the parents who are an essential cog of this heritage-based curriculum, who help the learners to ensure that they're adequately prepared. May you speak on that particular premise against the context of the new set of curriculum?
Well, let me start by saying that when we're looking at the new set of curriculum, the very good part of it is that, like it's rightly said, that education at its best is supposed to produce students that will turn mirrors into windows.
Right.
What that means is that they are not just mere reflectors of probably other people's ideas and ideologies and systems. They're actually looking into the future and bringing innovation. So as such, most parents are most appreciating as far as this curriculum is concerned, because it's going back to the roots. It's helping to develop the student from the grassroots to be able to identify with who they are as an individual and not look to faraway places, because when we look at our own heritage, it's very rich. As far as that is concerned, we can see that there are many things that have gone by the wayside over the years that we could make use of and utilize. So the parents are geared. you realize that as far as the previous curriculum that came through, as robust as it was, parents would probably get into late hours of the night helping the students to be able to come up with the colors. But now with the less subjects that are there, they are also going to gear up and match up so that the material that is needed and the information that the students are supposed to get are going to get them, and then they are ready to support as far as this curriculum is concerned.
Right. We have Mr. Taonga Ndoro back on the line. Mr. Ndoro, before the glitch, you were explaining the state of preparedness by the ministry to ensure that the heritage-based curriculum is fully adopted and, of course, is fully rolled out across the 10 provinces of Zimbabwe.
Yes, thanks. I was saying by now, all our teachers have now grasped the expectations of the heritage-based curriculum, including all our pupils, at least those who are from ECDB right up to Form 6. The ones that will just need to be appraised about it are those that are starting ECDA this year. But otherwise, it's all systems go in terms of the heritage-based curriculum, and it is already starting to bear fruit.
Let's take a sneak peek into the recently released results. The advanced level results, of course, were released last week, giving a national pass rate of 95.75%, 96% in essence, while the grade 7 results, which were released late last year, have failed to reach the 50% mark, coming in at 48.49%. What's your reading of these results from a ministry's perspective?
From a ministry's perspective, we are not doing too badly in terms of the grade 7 results. It just means that there is a little bit more work that we need to do to breach the 50% barrier. And some of the strategies that we have put in place is to ensure that all our pupils, by the time they get to grade 7, they are able to read what we call foundational numeracy and literacy, particularly in terms of literacy. This is why our programs are starting from ECDA, such that by the time we are assessing grade 7, the child is supposed to read. So basically what that says, it says about 51% or so of our children cannot read properly at the time that they're at grade 7. Because when a child is able to read, there's no way they can be able to fail an examination. This case, 96%. It is
Right, connectivity issues there. As he said, they are on their way from Chiredzi, making way, of course, toward Bulawayo, having started in Manicaland province and visited several other provinces just to get an indication of the state of preparedness for the rollout of the heritage-based curriculum. Of course, a technical team will continue to make efforts to reach out to Mr. Taonga Ndoro, the spokesperson in the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. Dr. Hleza, 96% for A-level, 49% pass rate for the grade 7 examinations. Your take, your reading.
Well, when we are looking at primary school students, we could say as far as the content material for the previous curriculum, which has been adjusted now, could have been so much for the mind that is still developing. Of course, we're talking of a mind that is like a sponge. But at the same time, if we even look from the parents' point of view in trying to get the homework as far as what the students would bring home, you would find that as a child would leave home around maybe 6 or 5 a.m. to be able to get to school, depending on where they stay, so that the parent also is able to get to work on time. And then they come back home around 5, 6 p.m. and then they're trying to eat. And then after that, the homework was so much that sometimes what we are now trying to get out of that in an exam, we may not get it. Simply because when we are looking at the brain, if one is able to have adequate sleep during the night, what the brain is doing at that time is almost like doing inventory taking and putting everything in its right corner. For example, we could say if one had started maybe say mathematics, and there's a drawer there that is called addition, the things they can be put in the right proportion so that when one is asked a question in exam, they're able to bring it out nicely. But if there's so much material to be comprehended and to be remembered, and also the time when that is supposed to be done is also utilized for homework, we can have a challenge where the child or the student may not be able to recall as far as the exams are concerned when the questions are coming through. But I think given the environment that we had, the students did their best, and the teachers also did their best. The parents also did their best, and we're looking forward this year to even better results as far as the primary school grade 7 students are concerned.
Right, I will relay this one to the teachers. 48% rather for grade 7 and 96% pass rate for the A-level results.
Yeah, sure. If you look at the A levels, the 97%, you definitely also realize that usually people who proceed to A level are the geniuses. So they obviously proceed to A level because they were doing better at school at O level. But when you look at the grade 7, I allude this to probably the literacy rate. Taunganandoro was right to say the reading and writing is what must be mastered by our learners. But also, let's look at the environment that is practically on the ground. I'm a deputy head myself, and I see what is happening. I have 60 teachers at my school, but I have only 21 classrooms. So before you know it, the morning session should be going home by midday. So there is not inadequate time for the teachers with the learners in such a scenario. And then the other issue being the teacher-pupil ratios. They still remain very high, and the teachers cannot actually give that individual attention, more specifically to our learners when they are in their learning environment. The other issue that I want to allude to is a situation where you then find that some of the learners still walk long distances. Some of the learners still do not have internet facilities. So there is still that rural and urban divide. There has to be some kind of equalization of education, a deliberate effort to make sure that we try to minimize the gap between those that are in farms, in mining areas, in rural areas, resettlements, and those that are in urban setup. So for that reason, you then find that the learners do not perform optimally in some circumstances because of the environmental factors that exist. I think that would be my take. Of course, if the teachers had a peace of mind, I will continue to reiterate that. They want to then make sure that they balance up what will be happening at work and what will also be happening back home. Their health insurance, their school fees for their learners.
Right, let's get into the subject of the teacher's position where 2018 levels, and some have even called for a basic monthly salary of $800. As teachers, how do you realistically plan to achieve these salary demands? You are demanding $800. What is the average salary that the teacher is getting today, and what does this mean for the teachers going forward from this standpoint?
Well, thank you. That is a very important question. Currently, we can say the average salary of a teacher is around $200.
$200.
$200 for someone who does not have a lot of distractions. Now that amount is too little for someone to make a living. So this is where the issue of wellness and mental health comes in. You are at work, you are supposed to perform, but you don't know where your next meal is going to come from. We want to believe that this country is not a poor country. It is endowed with mineral resources, which we think should be used in ensuring that we have adequate salaries. 800 is not too much to ask for. Actually, it's after we have looked at the basic needs of a person. This is an amount that will allow you at least to have peace of mind and then do your work. And we are sure that if government is really serious, it's not a big figure to ask for, considering the vast mineral resources, perhaps levying mining companies just 1% of their profits should be adequate to cover not only the salaries, but also the other needs in the education sector. We have mobile companies that are doing so well. The social media is awash with people, businessmen, splashing big monies. And if they are levied 1% from their business ventures, and this figure is directed towards financing education, I am sure our teachers are going to get decent salaries. I want to remind you that in the 90s, the early 90s, a Zimbabwean teacher earned 15 times the PDL that was there at that particular time.
Right.
Yes. Nowadays, our PDL is around $500, $600. If we were to be given even 2 times the PDL, do you think we would mourn? Even this issue of paid extra lessons and so on. Extra lessons or private tutoring are not a new phenomenon. They used to be done back there, but teachers were not charging. Why? Because they were earning 15 times the PDL. So I am saying, if this is the same government, we have not changed party, the ruling party from independence. So if the ZANU-PF government was paying 15 times the PDL, what has happened today to go to a figure which is a fraction of the PDL? So we are saying to our authorities, let's come together, let's mobilize, allow the economy to grow by not shutting down these small to medium. You know, if the dynamics are changed and incentivize people who are in the informal sector to formalize, I am sure they will come on board and there will be a big cake for the nation to share.
Right. Mr. Ndoro, a concern here that's coming from the teachers, they're lobbying for salaries of around 800 United States dollars from the average $200 that they're currently earning. And they also contend that in the 90s, Zimbabwean teachers would earn as much as 15 times the poverty datum line. Right now, that's below 3 times of the poverty datum line. What are you doing as the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education to attend to the concerns that the teachers in 2026 are presenting before the ministry?
Okay, thanks, David. Just to clarify, the issue of teachers' remuneration and conditions of service fall under a different ministry, which is the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, and administered through the Public Service Commission. And the teachers representatives here in the studio are aware of the joint committee which they participate in to discuss those issues. I thought here at the church today we're only discussing about our preparation for schools opening.
Yes, indeed, the preparations for schools opening also encompass the affairs of the teachers? I can see you're eager to respond
Oh,
to.
yes, definitely. I knew Taungana Ndoro would say that we follow under the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, and then also administered through the Public Service Commission. But I think the same comrade usually talks about the whole of government approach. We also expect our ministry of primary and secondary education to be able to be on the forefront, also assisting us as we try to lobby government and Ministry of Finance. But I am aware that the government this year, the growth is poised to be 6.6%, which is a growth.
Revised to about 5%.
Revised to about 5%, which is a growth. But we have not seen that growth in our pockets as teachers. And last year, we had some good rains. And this year, I wouldn't want to say more than enough. So far, we have very good rains. And the minerals that my colleagues was talking about, and I'm sure we can tap on all those resources to try and make sure that even the growth that the country is experiencing also translates to the workers. Not only the teachers, we are looking at almost all public servants and say, let's our employer also look at us. And if the teacher becomes motivated, it becomes easier, even for the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. When the teachers are discharging their duties, it will be very easy for them to manage the teachers because their wellness will be catered for. So in our view, yes, we can talk about the preparedness of the schools, but if the mind of the teacher is not prepared, then you don't expect a teacher who has issues, mental issues, to be standing in front of learners. Talk about ECD, A, B, let alone even up to A level. So our wish is that together with our Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, we try to lobby and push our government, our employer, through the Ministry of Finance to finance education. Not only to finance even only salaries. I'm also looking at the BIM. It had a long time before it has been paid. It's actually a long time. And that affects, again, the teachers. Preparedness of the teachers when they are at the school level. Preparedness of the headmaster himself when he is at school level. You realize that around a third or more of the learners are under BIM. And half of the parents who are not under BIM do not even pay the fees. So how do we manage? Because it is the same Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education that administers the education system. So they must also be concerned with the whole value chain of making sure that everyone else is happier in order to discharge their duties.
Right. Mr. Ndoro, before I come to you, Dr. Hleza, the issue that's being raised by the teachers here, BEAM, there were some issues when the presentation of the 2026 budget was made. BEAM was one of the pockets that seemed to have struggled in as far as receiving payments from Treasury are concerned. At the same time, this education fraternity received one of the highest allocations where the 2026 budget was actually concerned. And yet, it's a concern in as far as the disbursement of those funds, which has been one of the key issues that played out in the previous budgets. What is the current state of affairs and what is the level of engagement between the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education and Treasury where the payments, not only for the teachers, but also where the BEAM structure is concerned?
Thank you very much. We need to understand that the BEAM is not a line item in the budget allocated to the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. The budget that we get as the lion's share on the national budget does not have the BEAM line item. The BEAM line item budget allocation falls under the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare as a social safety net for orphans and vulnerable children. So we receive that money from the Ministry of Public Service, labor and social welfare, and then we disperse that money. So as you can see, it doesn't fall directly within our purview. The same with the teacher's salary. Our sister ministry is the one that handles that. What we have done as the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education is to continue to lobby for the disbursement of the BIM fund together with the Ministry of Labor and also the Ministry of Finance, so that we can get these funds to our schools and rehabilitate some of the schools that are facing challenges. So we are continuing to lobby, even in terms of conditions of service. Behind the scenes, the Honorable Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Professor Tori Raymond, is always behind the scenes lobbying for improvement of conditions of service of teachers, lobbying for the disbursement of BIM funds, including BIM arrears. So behind the scenes, we are working very hard. But there's somewhere where we have to draw the line, where we cannot work beyond that. But our Honorable Minister is working day and night to ensure that those BIM funds are released and also conditions of service of teachers are improved.
Right. Dr. Hleza, where can the teachers and the ministry find each other to ensure that the wellness of the teachers is catered for?
Well, looking at this, I think it's a double approach, where the educators are also lobbying together with the ministry to see how best this can be resolved. If there is anything that can be done, is to see that the welfare of the educators, the teachers, have been met to the level where they are comfortable and they've got peace of mind. So I think also parental engagement can also come through as far as the school development committee is concerned in the different schools, simply because when we're looking from a parental point of view, the child spends 8 hours in a school, and they spend it with the teacher.
Right.
So if there is anything in any organization, if we're going to look at key performance indicators, at the same time, one would want to pay best someone who is at work and performing well. So the teachers are actually modeling the future of a community, the future of a nation, because this is where the learners are gaining skills, are gaining Ubuntu, are gaining character, such that in the future we have got an accountant who's not a thief. We have got an engineer who, at the end of the day, is not coming up with structures that are going to sink into the sand when it begins to rain. So at the end of the day, there is need of that coming together from the ministry, from the teacher's point of view, and the parent point of view, to lobby together such that the welfare of those who are shaping the future of a nation, the future of the world, have been taken care of. If it's not taken care of, that's where now we begin to have chaos as a community, where the fabric has been torn apart and we begin to see challenges arising in many areas of society.
The teachers, we are ready to respond to that very quickly before we move on to the next subject.
Thank you very much. You talk about teachers demanding around 800 and something. We've had joint committees with the Public Service Commission, and we've had joint committees, one of which is called the Basic Needs Basket Committee. And we are happy that we are having those bipartite arrangements. But I think what we need to do is to transform those into action. Our research has shown that we actually deserve more than 1,000. But with the joint committees, we actually came to around 974. Fine, our last position paper, which we presented, was around 840. But what we are saying is, be that as it may, as we are getting plus 200, 300 US dollars that we are getting as workers, we are saying, we know that the government cannot give us 1,000. Just wake up one day and give us 1,000. But we are saying it must deliberately, incrementally review our salaries from time to time. I will remind you that the whole of last year, we did not get a salary increase. And if it were not of the benevolence of His Excellency, who then eventually gave us $150, which was paid around bonus time, and 75 apiece in November and in December. Imagine the teacher as they go today to school and as they come closer to their paydays, they are getting back to the last year's salaries of $345, $364.45. Imagine, after having received their bonus, after having received the presidential token which we got, we must not be benevolent cases, in my view. We must get what we really deserve. And through research, we have shown that we, together with even the government side, we have shown that we deserve upwards of 800 that we submit as our last position paper.
I will jump in there. We are running out of time. From the teacher's perspective, the schools justified in bundling uniforms and stationery with the fees. What is the reasoning behind these practices?
I will first of all comment about uniforms. Sometimes it is a matter of maintaining certain standards that some schools may be tempted to say, come and buy this. But I think before they do that, there's need to go into the market so that whatever they are providing is not above the market rate. And I would encourage that with the heritage-based curriculum. Instead of them engaging a third party to make uniforms for them, it could actually be taken as a project, an income-generating project in the school.
Allow me to jump in there.
Yes.
When I went to school, I could access the school uniforms at my high school. At the same time, I could still access the uniforms from NB Nagaji back in the day. Are we saying that the science of it has now transformed?
What I can tell you is that we have now so many players, some who are bringing in varieties which may not be the real thing. This is why sometimes you would find a school being tempted to say we are providing. There's nothing wrong. What I see as the challenge is the players who are doing the provision of the uniforms, they should at least make a balance to make sure that they are operating within certain margins so that we don't have an element of people wanting to profit here. Back then, you will see that back then we had a structured economy and people were they
now you have many players across the board, and they are only operating up to a certain scale.
Yes.
So what then is the solution, Dr. Hleza?
Well, looking at this approach, I think there is a need ultimately to source raw materials for production of school uniforms such that it becomes more affordable, because some are actually importing such that they maintain certain standards, and that raises up the school uniform price. At the same time, you find that some parents take their children or students to a school in a community which they cannot afford, and sometimes the cry is coming because they are trying to reach that which is beyond their reach. But if each and everyone in their community where they are, with the schools that have been put there, whether it's government or private, they should then be able to reach to that which they can afford, other than to stage beyond their means and then begin to cry out.
Right, I will move on to another subject. To you, Mr. Ndoro, the public education WhatsApp dashboard is being positioned as a public accountability tool. May you speak to that subject?
But can you repeat the question?
Public education WhatsApp dashboard is being positioned as a public accountability tool. May you speak to how this functions?
Yes, we've got that dashboard on our website where we respond instantaneously to anybody who visits our website and is able to connect with us using the WhatsApp platform. With that WhatsApp platform, we're also able to educate all our clients on any other questions that they may have, even it being registration of schools, issues to do with extra lessons, issues to do with being forced to pay for stationery or uniforms, for instance, and we guide them, and we're able to gather a lot of evidence in order to take corrective measures at the schools that would be going against government policy.
Right. With that, we have come to the end of our program. Allow me to thank my guests, starting with Mr. Taunga Nandoro, who is en route from Chiredzi, making way to Bulawayo, of course, on a mission to understand the state of readiness where the commencement of this academic calendar for 2026 is concerned. And of course, he's the spokesperson for the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. Here in studio, Mr. Godwin Tadera, Secretary General of the Zimbabwe Teachers Union, ZIMTA, Mr. Charles Mubwa, Ndarikwa, Harare Province Chairperson, Progressive Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, as well as Dr. Sleza, Education Expert. Gentlemen, thank you for appearing on The Chase tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
viewers. Bye-bye.
Fantastic. And of course, safe travels to you, Mr. Taunga Nandoro. Once again, thank you to you, our guests, and to you, our viewers, for joining this very conversation. Do let us know what are your views and thoughts, of course, on our social media platforms at Zim Papers TV Network, as well as at ZTN Prime. I'm Ibn Mabunda, the Money Man. Thank you for watching and have a good evening.